Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. How you all doing? So here we are, another day, another podcast, and I'm in a really strange space since ouch, and still processing all of that with the understanding that I've now come to, which was it was all on me, and I have to accept that. And yeah, the people walking across the stage was rude and difficult for my energy, but you know, we have to learn to manage these sorts of things as a medium. I say this to my students all the time. You can't expect your sitters to be perfectly well behaved, because people don't understand the experience that the medium is having, and nor should they. They've paid me to provide a service. They're not paying me to make me feel better. So I'm bouncing back, as I always do, and thank you all for your lovely messages. Like I said, it's important, I think, to talk about the knocks and the process, because I know it was such a revelatory moment for me when I asked a teacher at college and just said, "How did you get rid of your fear?" And they replied with, "Oh no, I'm still petrified. I do this work, but I'm still petrified. I still want to be sick before I walk out on stage." It was such a revelation to me, because I thought that there was something that spirit would bring me in that slightly disempowering way that we do think, that when I was ready, spirit would come along like one of maybe the fairies out of Sleeping Beauty and bop and bestow upon me some wonderful fear-removing something. And of course, that's not what happens. That's not what it's like. So yeah, that's the journey, and it will be the journey for you as well in your mediumship, whether you want to be on a stage and a platform, or whether you want to keep it low level, one-on-one. You don't always get nothing but ideal sitters. Sometimes you get difficult sitters, difficult people, and sometimes that's because they're going through stuff. It's really easy when you're a medium to think about how it impacts you, but you have to remember that everybody that's watching you is also having an experience and going through something and processing something. Anyway, so we've been thinking about that. And then you may have seen my TikTok, my reel, but I've been having this I went for a dog walk the other day, and I was thinking about the oneness and how we're all connected. And then I don't even know how it happened. Oh, it's all such a muddle. Welcome to my brain at the moment. But just this idea that we're not separated at all. Now, you often hear people talk about us being one, that there is one. But rather than, I'm trying to work out ways of explaining this to you. So rather than the way that I was viewing it, which is like a family. So we're all connected, we are all one because we are one family, but we are individuals. So just like in your family, you've got your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your mum, your dad, your children, they're all separate. Taking that even further to, what if we are all just one soul? One soul having many, many experiences separately. And I did touch on this in Mediumship Matters, because I've been chewing it over, and I wanted to see what the ladies think of that. So I think we still think of ourselves as an individual in some level. We go, yeah, the oneness, we're all connected, but we still sort of put ourselves through a filter. I saw a meme today on Instagram, and it's so funny because things like this never bothered me before. But it was sort of like, you've got to hold the light, because you never know when you are going to need to be that beacon for somebody else. Now, I agree with that, but then I also had this funny reaction to it of like, well, that's egotistical. That come to me, I am the light. Let me shine my light upon you, and then you will find the light and I will have helped you. And actually, if we are all just really one, completely one, you know, people talk about the drop in the ocean, but I didn't really think about the fact that that drop is immersed and no longer separate from the ocean. It's joined into it. It was more like a load of beads. Does that make sense? And yeah, so actually, if you are holding the light and being the light, that's important. I'm not saying it's not important, but you're actually only doing it for yourself, because there is no separation. We are all one. So every time you show somebody love, you are showing yourself love. And not just as an idea, as an energy, but you actually really are showing yourself love, because it is you. And what if everybody on this planet, good and bad, is in fact just you, really you? Not the idea of the oneness and the kind of clinical, slightly removed, yeah, but I'm a better version of them because Boris Johnson's a twat kind of energy, but the actual acceptance that you are Boris Johnson, even though he is a twat. Like, where does that, what? I know. And just the whole idea, it just changes so many things. It's such a funny thing to chew over. And I'm not saying that's how it is, before you all get triggered and send me loads of messages. I'm just saying it's a really interesting process to sit in and think about for your own evolution. And then if we take karma into that, if we take karma into that, then karma is instantaneous, because if you hurt somebody, you're hurting yourself. So there isn't then the idea of karma as that's something that they will need to go through later. Of course, if somebody does something horrible, it normally causes disharmony in their energy, because they know that they shouldn't have behaved the way that they should. So they're more likely to attract disharmony into their lives, which is a form of karma. But that truest karma, they've already done it to themselves, because you are them and they are you. So every piece of harm that is carried out to another human being is you doing it to yourself. And then I put this on TikTok, and I knew it was going to get people talking. I didn't expect the response it got. It was quite interesting. And then people were saying, yeah, but there's people out there I don't like. And I was like, well, yeah, but they're you. And where do we take this idea then? I mean, let's take Boris. He's a great example of, I know some people love him. I'm not in that group, you can probably tell. And I don't go into politics. I don't watch the news. I'm very uneducated in that, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Thank you very much. And now I know that there's other versions of me that know all about it, so that's not a problem, is it? But if we take him and that kind of polarizing energy that we've got there, what if that is like the spirit world at work? So let me explain. I hope you've watched the Hunger Games. I hope you've watched all of them. Now, would there be Katniss Everdeen if there wasn't President Snow? Would there be the breakdown in the areas without Katniss Everdeen? It might have happened anyway, it might have, but she was that pinnacle for the revolution, wasn't she? And then would she have got to the point she got to without President Snow being the bad guy? No, because he pulled her back into the Hunger Games. He pulled her back in. So therefore, was he not actually in service to getting the districts, not areas, districts, my apologies, fellow nerds. Was he not a part of that? So, therefore, are all the people that are on pedestals of control that we are having issues with at this time, and there's a lot of them, aren't there? And it's funny how it's happening like across the board. I don't think it's just that I've suddenly got into an age where everyone's realising. I think it's all of these, the COVID and the handling of the COVID and all of those kind of things. They're triggers, and they're triggers for humanity. And if they're triggering all of us to get up and pay attention and choose to vote and choose to pay attention, not in the way that I do, of not watching any of the news. I don't mean paying that kind of attention, but actually think about actions and seeing the worst aspects of ourselves being reflected back to us. Is that not the spirit world at work? I ask you. If you see somebody that is a really unpleasant, horrible, arsehole does there need to be some acceptance that they are bringing that up as a purpose rather than a problem? So like the lady that was difficult in my audience the other day, what if she was doing the spirit world's work for them? What if she was triggering me to get stronger and put a better barrier up with my audience and get myself more in the zone and to be more resilient? Because you do have to be resilient to be a medium. You do have to push through your doubts, your stuff, your problems. What if that was her purpose? And what if she was actually doing me a favour? So what if all these people that have been wounding us are actually serving us? And then what if they are us? And then our soul, in the infinite wisdom of soul that is beyond us, is directing those parts of itself to behave that way for this part's unfoldment, for the part you find yourself in. And then let's take it even further. If you haven't turned off by now, you're in it for the long haul, listener. Good luck. But when we talk about spirit guides, again, we think of them being separate. And I know that my journey has changed, and rather than having individuals now, it does feel more just like an overall presence, just like tapping into source. That sounds really big-headed, but you know what I mean. Rather than, this is Michael, my spirit guide. Now I'm talking to Gerard, my spirit guide. It's more just I'm talking to spirit guides. So, what if we're just talking to ourselves? What if we're just tuning in to the part of our soul that has not got mixed up in human stuff? And then some people on YouTube recommended that I watch The Egg Theory on YouTube, and I really recommend you watch that because it helps. It's got pictures and it just helps you to think about it. And I'm not validating any of this or saying it's right, because I don't actually think I'm advanced enough to know this stuff. But I think it's important for our evolution that we start to question this stuff and really think about it. I'm also not saying, just to be clear, that I'm the only person that's ever had these thoughts. I've got a lot of people messaging me saying that's not an original thought, other people have thought that. And I wasn't competing with them. It had just occurred to me. I, in no way, shape or form, think that I am more advanced on my spiritual journey than anyone. I just can talk a lot. That's what it's about. I can just chitty chat. So yeah, chew that over. Think about that. What do you think? And then Jill messaged me and said, well, who are you connecting to when you're connecting to loved ones in spirit? And I then had to think about that. And I thought, well, I'm connecting to the version, the aspect of the soul that the sitter remembers. So the individual drop in the ocean, which is why when your grandmother comes through to me with the intelligence and the almighty knowing of spirit, when your grandmother comes through to me, she comes through as the grandmother you know, and not the time that she lived as a Buddhist monk on the side of a mountain, and not as the time when she was a Victorian schoolmistress, and not as the time when she was a cave woman, because that wouldn't make any sense for you, would it? Anyway, it's just interesting. It's interesting to think about. It's interesting to just consider, just for a moment, that perhaps this entire universe and every person, animal, thing in it is you. Some people did ask me if I'd taken acid, and I'd like to assure you all that I haven't, but I am open to it in the future. Sorry. But it is that kind of like, whoa, man, I just don't know what to do with this information. And I don't know. I mean, somebody said I wasn't actually helping by sharing these thoughts, and maybe I'm not, I don't know, but it's just coming through, and it's just such an interesting thing to think about. Like, you know how, and I've said this before, but I find this fascinating to me too. We talk about what is spirituality? What even is spirituality? You know, there's people that for spirituality is a religion with rules and ideas, and obviously for me, it's more fluid than that. It's a belief system, it's a hope, it's a feeling. And then, but in this, I've lost my train of thought. In all this craziness, I think my brain just overloaded and gave up. But just, it's so interesting to think about, to just sit with for a bit. And it's fine if you just think I'm talking absolute poppycock, because I am a bit, because there's nothing quantifiable here. There's nothing concrete that I can give you. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. You know, I know I've said that before, but what about the people who are the most spiritual people you'll ever meet on earth who don't believe in the spirit world at all? Who are complete atheists, don't believe in anything. We live, we die, we're an accident, we that's it. We get kind of judgy on those people, and it's not about convincing them. And in fact, even more so than that, it's about being open to their way. It's about saying, okay, you're here to teach me something. What can you teach me? Shout out again to Jess Daly, who does the talk with Peter Breeze on the podcast I was just interviewed on, because she's good for me. I know she is, because I want to be held accountable. I want somebody to question. I want somebody who says, you know, this aspect of spirituality is damaging, because I'm not one of those happy clappy people that thinks all aspects of spirituality that are out there are not damaging, because I know that some are. And I know some people hide behind the spiritual armour and appear to be really connected, really. But again, it's like an Instagram filter. It's just And I'm not saying that I'm never, oh God, I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, that's today's podcast, guys, because I had to share it with you because I'm just so fascinated by it. And my friend Jeff, who's a Buddhist, I asked him for his opinion, and he said that Buddhists don't believe in reincarnation quite the way that I thought that they did, which I thought was interesting, which is we don't, obviously, in this life we've grown. So in the next life, we are a slightly different version. So we're not reincarnating with the same soul, we're in a new version. Does that make sense? It's just absolutely, it's incredible. What if this, just like in the egg theory, what if it is all just for you, for me, but we are the same? How does that change your life? How would you be living differently? How would you be interacting differently with people? How does that change your connection to the spirit world? How does that make you feel about your place in the universe? On that note, I'm going to go and watch some trashy TV and turn my brain off for a while. But I hope you enjoyed my musings. Apologies if you didn't. We'll be back to normal service, resumed shortly. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch up with you soon.